Luxury supercars are supposed to be untouchable. They exist behind velvet ropes, guarded by price tags so extreme they separate dreamers from owners. That assumption collapsed in rural China. In a muddy farmyard far from Milan or Monaco, a hand-built machine appeared that looked disturbingly like a Lamborghini Reventón. It wasn't forged in a carbon fiber lab, but with scrap metal, welding sparks, and stubborn defiance. Costing less than a used economy car, it challenged the meaning of exclusivity itself. This isn't a story about copying. It's about a man who refused to accept that desire must bow to wealth alone. The impossible replica, outsmarting Lamborghini. Picture this. You are standing in the muddy outskirts of Suqian, a rural city in Jiangsu province, China. The air smells like wet earth and diesel. You look past the rows of crops and the piles of discarded machinery. And there, sitting in the middle of a farmyard, is something that defies logic. It looks like a stealth fighter jet that crash-landed and decided to become a car. It has the razor-sharp angles, the matte gray finish, and the aggressive predator-like stance of a vehicle that belongs in a climate-controlled vault in Monaco, not parked next to a tractor. This is the Lamborghini Reventón, or at least it looks like one. The real Reventón is a myth made of carbon fiber. Lamborghini only ever built 21 of them for the entire world. When it launched in 2007, the Italians called it a ground-based strike fighter, inspired directly by the F-22 Raptor. It was the kind of car that wasn't just expensive, it was unobtainable. With a price tag hovering around $1.6 million, you couldn't just buy one, you had to be chosen. It was a symbol of the ultimate divide between the haves and the have-nots, a machine designed to be worshipped from afar, but never touched. But the car sitting in this muddy farmyard didn't cost $1 million. It cost $9,500. And the man who built it isn't an aeronautical engineer from Bologna. He is Wang Jian, a 28-year-old mechanic and farmer who looked at the impossible exclusivity of the modern supercar and decided that the only thing stopping him from owning one was the will to build it himself. For most of us, a car like the Reventón is a poster on a wall, a digital image on a screen, a dream that we accept we will never touch. We accept the barrier. We accept that some things are just for the anonymous elite. Wang Jian did not accept this. In 2011, he took his life savings of 60,000 yuan, bought a second-hand Volkswagen Santana, salvaged an engine from an old Nissan van, and started cutting sheet metal. He didn't have the blueprints, he didn't have the carbon fiber autoclaves. He had a small die-cast model car, a welding torch, and an absolute refusal to be told what he couldn't have. This project, which the world would soon call the Shanzai Supercar, is more than just a mechanical curiosity or a funny story about a fake car. It is a structural challenge to the entire automotive industry. It asks a dangerous question. If a farmer in rural China can hammer scrap metal into the shape of a $2 million legend and use it to haul fertilizer, what are we actually paying for when we buy into luxury? Wang Jian deconstructed the aura of the unownable supercar. He proved that while he couldn't replicate the V12 engine or the aerospace technology, he could replicate the feeling, the presence, and the dream. And he did it for less than the price of a used economy car. This is the story of the impossible replica, the spirit of the mountain stronghold. To understand why a man would spend a year of his life welding scrap metal into the shape of an Italian legend, we have to look past the car itself and look at the culture that built it. In the West, we might look at Wang Jian's creation and see a counterfeit, a knockoff, or a copycat. But within China, this project taps into a much deeper, more complex cultural current known as Shanzai. The word Shanzai literally translates to mountain stronghold. Historically, it referred to the hideouts of bandits and outlaws who lived high in the mountains, far beyond the reach of the emperor's tax collectors and laws. These weren't just criminals. In popular folklore, they were often romanticized figures, rebels who operated by their own rules and defied a corrupt or exclusionary central authority. Over the last few decades, this term has evolved from describing bandit hideouts to describing a unique style of manufacturing. It represents a grassroots culture of imitation, adaptation, and rebellious innovation. When we talk about Shanzai in the context of modern economics, we are talking about a Robin Hood mentality applied to technology and luxury. It is the idea that the premium features of a smartphone, a designer bag, or a supercar should not be reserved solely for the wealthy elite. The Shanzai innovator looks at a $2 million price tag and sees it not as a valuation of quality, but as an artificial barrier meant to keep the common person out. Their goal is to smash that barrier. They utilize cleverness, scavenge supply chains, and rapid prototyping to make the unobtainable accessible. They are, in a sense, righting wrongs on heaven's behalf, ensuring that the joys of modern engineering are distributed to the many, not just the few. Wang Zhan is the embodiment of this spirit. By all conventional metrics, he was already a success before he started this project. He was a skilled mechanic with over a decade of experience. He had opened his own auto repair business. He had a family. Yet, he described a lingering feeling that something was missing from his life. He felt a disconnect. As China underwent a massive urban luxury boom, rural innovators like him were often left on the sidelines, watching the wealth parade go by on screens. His decision to build the Reventón was his way of reasserting his agency. The Lamborghini was the ultimate unownable object, so it became the perfect target for his ambition. His motivation went beyond simple ownership. If he just wanted to drive a fast car, he could have modified a sedan. But he wanted to manufacture a supercar himself. He wanted to research it, design it, and solve the engineering puzzles that the Italians had solved, but using the materials available in his backyard. Wang Zhan identified a market of one. The global automotive industry had looked at a farmer in Jiangsu and decided there was zero demand for a Lamborghini in his price bracket. They ignored him. So Wang Zhan fulfilled that demand himself. He looked at the exclusive gates of the luxury car market, built on heritage and astronomical pricing, and he decided to walk around them. He proved that while the brand might own the trademark, they do not own the physics of a mid-engine chassis or the geometry of a scissor door. The mechanic behind the myth. The global headlines that broke this story loved to use the word farmer. It made for a better headline. The idea of a man stepping out of a rice paddy and accidentally welding a supercar together is a romantic notion. But it does a disservice to the reality of Wang Zhan's life. By the time he cut the first piece of steel for the Reventón, he was not an amateur dabbling in a new hobby. He was a veteran technician. He began his apprenticeship at the age of 16, spending his formative years covered in grease, learning the intricate anatomy of the automobile. By 28, he owned his own auto repair business. He possessed over a decade of hands-on diagnostics, repair, and fabrication experience. The Reventón project was not a miracle of luck. It was a demonstration of professional competence. But even a master mechanic needs a plan. And this is where Wang Zhan's methodology veers into the extraordinary. Lamborghini employs hundreds of engineers and utilizes advanced computer-aided design software to model every curve and stress point of their vehicles. Wang Zhan had a toy. Lacking access to official blueprints, he purchased a small-scale die-cast model of the Reventón. This miniature car became his primary design reference. Consider the immense difficulty of this translation. Wang had to measure the tiny, faceted angles of the toy and mentally scale them up to full size. He had to translate millimeters into meters, ensuring that the proportions remained aggressive and accurate without the aid of 3D scanning technology. This requires a level of spatial reasoning that is rarely taught in engineering schools. He was essentially building a sculpture by eye, trusting his instinct to replicate the complex, stealth fighter geometry of one of the most angular cars ever designed. The cosmetic achievement, however, pales in comparison to the structural engineering required to make the car move. Wang sourced the chassis from a Volkswagen Santana, a car that served as the reliable workhorse of the Chinese taxi fleet for decades. The Santana is a front-engine, front-wheel drive sedan. The Lamborghini Reventón is a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive supercar. In terms of automotive architecture, these two vehicles are biological opposites. To reconcile them, Wang had to perform major invasive surgery on the chassis. He couldn't just bolt a new body onto the old frame. He had to slice the chassis, fabricating new mounting points to relocate the engine from the nose of the car to the middle, directly behind the driver's seat. In a factory setting, shifting an engine configuration like this requires precision jigs and laser alignment to ensure the drive shafts connect correctly and the frame doesn't twist under torque. Wang achieved this relocation using manual tools, welding torches, and the resources of a rural repair shop. This feat challenges the traditional hierarchy of innovation. We are taught that complex engineering requires institutional knowledge, clean rooms, and degrees. Wang Jian proved that practical experience, skills learned through 10 years of wrenching and problem solving, is a potent alternative. He understood vehicle dynamics not because he read about them, but because he had lived them. When he moved that engine, he wasn't just modifying a car, he was proving that the principles of mechanical engineering are universal, available to anyone brave enough to cut a car in half and weld it back together. Scrap metal and scissor doors. Let's crack this thing open. If you were to look under the skin of the Lamborghini Reventón, you wouldn't find a cohesive Italian monocoque. You would find a mechanical Frankenstein, a glorious collision of three different automotive worlds, welded together with pure determination. The technical specifications of this car read less like a spec sheet and more like a history of Chinese industrialization. The skeleton of this beast is the Volkswagen Santana. For those unfamiliar with the Chinese automotive landscape, the Santana is not just a sedan, it is the workhorse of the nation. Since the 1980s, it has been the taxi, the police car, and the family hauler that literally drove China's economic miracle. It is known for being unkillable. By choosing the Santana as his donor chassis, Wang Jian made a pragmatic but culturally poetic choice. He took the most common, utilitarian vehicle on the road, the symbol of the working class, and used its bones to support the ultimate symbol of excess. Deep within that modified chassis beats the heart of the machine. But do not expect the screaming, high-revving opera of a 6.5-liter Italian V12. Wang Jian powered his supercar with a second-hand engine salvaged from a Nissan van. It is a choice driven by necessity, prioritizing reliability and availability over raw horsepower. While the original Reventón was designed to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier, Wang's creation was designed to actually start up every morning. It transforms the vehicle from a delicate track weapon into a farm-ready cruiser, capable of reaching a claimed 160 miles per hour, though one has to wonder about the bravery required to test that limit in a hand-built car. The true genius, however, lies in the skin. The original Lamborghini Reventón is famous for its bodywork made of advanced carbon fiber composites, styled to mimic the radar-evading facets of the F-22 Raptor stealth jet. Wang Jian replicated these complex, razor-sharp geometric angles using scrap iron sheeting. He didn't have carbon fiber molds or autoclaves. He had a welding torch and a hammer. He manually cut dozens of individual steel plates, welding them together to approximate the stealth fighter look. Every crease and fold you see on the car is the result of manual fabrication, turning heavy, discarded metal into an aerodynamic form. And then there is the hero feature, the doors. You cannot build a Lamborghini without the signature scissor doors. They are the defining trait of the V12 lineage. Structurally, this is a nightmare to execute with scrap metal. Real scissor doors use complex, counterweighted hinge mechanisms to lift lightweight materials effortlessly. Wang had to engineer a hinge strong enough to lift heavy steel plates vertically and hold them there safely. When those doors swing up, they don't just open the cabin, they validate the entire build. Of course, the car remains unapologetically raw. It lacks a windshield, leaving the driver exposed to the elements. The headlights are missing, replaced by empty, menacing sockets. The interior is virtually non-existent, stripped down to a single driver's seat and a pedal box. But these missing pieces only add to its charm. This isn't a showroom model meant to be polished with a diaper. The viral farmer narrative. When the first images of Wang Jian's Reventón uploaded to the internet in 2012, they didn't just circulate, they detonated. The visual was simply too striking to ignore. It was the ultimate juxtaposition of high-tech aspiration and low-tech reality. You had the silhouette of a $2 million Italian hypercar, matte black, aggressive, and faceted like a stealth fighter, parked in the dirt of a Jiangsu farmyard. In some photos, it was surrounded by rusted agricultural equipment. In others, it was being used to transport bags of fertilizer. The internet loves a stark contrast, and this was Mad Max meeting the countryside. The world immediately latched onto the headline of the crazy farmer. It became a viral sensation, shared on blogs and forums from London to New York. The commentary was a mix of amusement, condescension, and genuine shock. People saw it as a quaint curiosity, a throwback Thursday oddity that highlighted the eccentricities of rural China. But by focusing on the mud and the fertilizer, the global audience largely missed the serious industrial ambition simmering underneath the surface. Wang Zhan is not a solitary eccentric. He is part of a massive, uncoordinated, yet deeply talented fraternity of grassroots inventors that spans the Chinese countryside. These are the amateur engineers who refuse to let a lack of formal education or funding stop them from building the impossible. You can see the same spirit in men like Grandpa Guo, who built a miniature electric Lamborghini for his grandson using scrap metal and e-bike parts for a total cost of around $800. It was a project born of love and ingenuity, proving that the joy of a supercar doesn't require a six-figure salary. Then there are figures like Zhang Shengwu, who didn't stop at cars. He built a fully functional 2-ton submarine affectionately named the Big Blackfish for the price of a mid-range sedan. He tested it in local lakes, diving underwater with a courage that borders on the reckless. Or Li Jingchun, who attempted to build an aircraft from recycled iron plates on his village rooftop. These men form a community of practice that academics call a panarchy. It is a state of grassroots innovation where development happens through chaotic, decentralized experiments rather than rigid state planning. While Western observers often treat these inventions as toys or memes, they represent a raw, unfiltered form of research and development. In Silicon Valley, innovation is discussed in boardrooms and protected by non-disclosure agreements. In the villages of Jiangsu, innovation happens in the open air, welded together from the detritus of the industrial age. The viral fame brought Wang Zhan recognition, validating his skills as a master fabricator, but it also trapped him in a stereotype. The world saw a cute story about a farmer with a dream. They failed to see a skilled technician, demonstrating that the barriers to entry for complex manufacturing are crumbling. The impossible equation: value without the price tag. To say that a farmer outsmarted a billion-dollar luxury brand sounds like a joke. After all, Automobili Lamborghini is a titan of global industry. They have thousands of employees, aerospace-grade manufacturing facilities, and annual revenues that rival the GDP of small nations. They sell a dream of exclusivity that is carefully cultivated and fiercely protected. But if you look past the balance sheets and focus on what a supercar actually does for its owner, Wang Zhan's project becomes a devastating critique of the luxury market. Consider the math of the Shanzai supercar. The original Reventón had a market valuation of roughly $1.6 million. Its value is derived from its scarcity, its badge, and its ability to signal that the owner is part of the untouchable elite. Wang Zhan achieved the same visual impact, the same ability to stop traffic and snap necks, for $9,500. In economic terms, he extracted 90% of the symbolic value of the vehicle while paying less than 1% of the price. He stripped away the institutional overhead, the marketing budgets, and the heritage tax, proving that the aura of the supercar is not something that can be trademarked. It can be forged in a shed. From a purely rational perspective, Wang Zhan's car is actually the smarter choice for his specific reality. Imagine bringing a real carbon fiber Lamborghini Reventón to the rural outskirts of Suqian. It would be a disaster. The suspension would shatter on the unpaved roads. The maintenance costs would bankrupt a small business in a month. The anxiety of scratching the paint would make it impossible to enjoy. In the context of rural China, the real supercar is an absurdity, but Wang's replica, it is built on the chassis of a Volkswagen Santana. It is durable, it is repairable with basic tools, and it is perfectly adapted to the environment it lives in. It offers the thrill of the exotic without the fragility of the authentic. Then there is the image that defines this entire saga: the Lamborghini hauling fertilizer. This is the ultimate power move. Luxury brands spend millions crafting an image of untouchable perfection. They want their cars to be worshipped, kept in climate-controlled garages, and driven only on sunny Sundays. When Wang Zhan uses his faceted stealth fighter replica to transport bags of fertilizer across a muddy field, he completely neutralizes that pretension. He takes an object of worship and turns it into a beast of burden. It suggests that the status we attach to these brands is fragile. If a farmer can use a supercar as a pickup truck, then the barrier between the high-class elite and the working class isn't as solid as the marketing departments want us to believe. This is the essence of the Shanzai philosophy. It argues that the copy can have just as much soul as the original. Wang Jian didn't steal sales from Lamborghini. Not a single person cross-shopping a Reventón bought a homemade replica instead. What he did was expose the mechanics of value. He showed that the feeling of being special, the thrill of design, and the joy of creation are not the exclusive property of billionaires. The law wins every time. There is a cruel irony built into the chassis of the Wang Jian Reventón. By combining the Nissan engine with the lightweight aerodynamic body, Wang claimed the vehicle had a theoretical top speed of 160 miles per hour. That is fast enough to keep pace with legitimate sports cars on the Autobahn. But in the eyes of the Chinese legal system, the top speed of this vehicle is effectively zero. For all its mechanical capability, the Shanzai Supercar is a prisoner. It is legally prohibited from ever leaving the dirt tracks of the farmyard. The barrier here is not engineering, it is bureaucracy. Modern nations, China included, operate on a foundation of standardization. Every vehicle on a public road must be a known quantity with a verifiable history, crash safety ratings, and emissions data. Wang's creation is a ghost in this system. It has no VIN number, no factory crash test, data, and no legal identity. To the local traffic police, it is not a marvel of grassroots ingenuity. It is an unregulated hazard, a pile of sharp metal angles moving at highway speeds without insurance. The risks of defying this reality are not hypothetical. Around the same time Wang was building his dream, another inventor in Jiangsu constructed a similar Lamborghini replica based on a Nissan Bluebird. When that driver took his creation onto the public streets, he was swiftly pulled over. The police looked at the registration document, which said Nissan Bluebird, and then looked at the car, which looked like a stealth fighter. The discrepancy was illegal. The authorities confiscated the vehicle, fined the owner, and ordered him to restore the car to its original factory appearance, an impossible task that effectively destroyed the project. This illustrates the hard limit of the Shanzai spirit. The state often promotes the idea of innovation-driven development, encouraging citizens to invent and create. However, that encouragement hits a wall when individual creativity threatens public safety or regulatory control. The government simply cannot allow a fleet of homemade, uninspected missiles to share the road with family sedans. So, Wang Jian's masterpiece remains trapped. It is a vehicle designed for speed, but condemned to haul fertilizer at walking pace, forever circling the same plot of land, a tiger pacing in a very small cage. The tragedy is that while Wang proved he could build the future, the law demands he stay in the present. The future of grassroots engineering. The rusty steel of Wang Jian's Reventón may eventually return to the earth, reclaimed by the same Jiangsu soil it was built upon. But the spirit that forged it has not faded. It has graduated. The Shanzai energy that drove a farmer to build a supercar in 2012 is the same energy that transformed Shenzhen from a manufacturing hub into the Silicon Valley of hardware. The tinkerers who once copied Western designs are now leading the world in electric vehicle technology and drone innovation. Wang Jian proved that innovation is not the exclusive property of billion-dollar R&D labs. It is born from hunger, necessity, and the refusal to accept impossible as an answer. His project stands as a permanent reminder that while a corporation can control the supply chain, they cannot control the human imagination. Automobili Lamborghini may own the patent, the trademark, and the heritage, but Wang Jian, driving a dream made of scrap metal through a field of fertilizer, owns something far more personal. He owns the proof that if you want it bad enough, you can build it yourself.